This is John Garofano from Reactive Training Systems. We received a question about what to do when you're running a development block and your estimated 1RMs on your competition exercises are down, but your assistance exercises and your supplemental exercises are going up. Well, in the purest sense, you could pivot and move into a different development block. However, I think context matters here, because if you're further out from a meet, maybe it's worthwhile to stick with that training and see if your weak range of motion or sticking point is actually getting better, if your weak muscle group is getting stronger. However, if you have a meet coming up, it may be worthwhile to consider your time frame, pivoting, and moving into something else. The one thing to consider is that we often see here at RTS that there can be second order effects when you do one block, focus on some qualities, and then you do another block afterward, that the first block actually improves the second block more than if you just ran this second block by itself. And we talk a lot about that in the RTS classroom. So I think it's worthwhile to consider the context. If you are a few weeks out from a meet, maybe you can't pivot, but maybe you need to change some strategies. If you are further out, maybe one of the things that you do is you stick with it and then measure your response on the second block and see, did the two together have a greater response than if you had ran just one by itself? So I'll provide an example. For me, I was running a block where I was doing a 5-count isometric deadlift, and what I was finding is that my estimated 1RM was not improving at the rate that I normally improve. However, there was this subjective feeling that when I was deadlifting, my deadlift bottom, that first like 2 to 3 centimeters off the floor, was just getting stronger. I was more confident, I felt that the movement pattern was getting better, and for me it was worthwhile to continue. What I found was the block right afterward that I ran was actually really successful, more successful than blocks that I've run in the past. And that got me to believe that putting those two blocks together and spending that time in doing those 5-count isometric deadlifts actually carried over to my competition lift, but I didn't realize it until I got to that second block. Hard training is rarely ever wasted. And I think that if you have the time and you can stick with something, sometimes you can get a really nice surprise. I just did a block review on one of my athletes, and we had a really lackluster response on his bench up until that 7th exposure when he peaked on the day of the meet. If we had stopped the block or we had changed the strategy, we might have missed out on that opportunity. So I do think that there is something to be said about having patience and seeing things through and then waiting until the end to measure, was it successful or not? Well, thank you for watching. I hope this has been helpful to you in your training, and we'll see you next time.